Welcome to episode 17 of 28 Days of Color, presented by S.T.E.A.M Engine Academy. Today's topic is color and martial arts. We'll speak with Terrell Summers about the role martial arts has played in his life and spirituality. And then we'll discuss the Million Man March for our history segment. Stay tuned.
The Million Man March was organized October 16, 1995 in around the National Mall in Washington, D.C. by Minister Louis Farrakhan. The goal of the Million Man March was to change and shift the perspective and the portrayal of the black man in America, because throughout history, as we've shown throughout in previous videos, such as the Jim Crow laws and the Jim Crow era, a lot of negative propaganda had been placed towards the black male identity, whether we're talking about Jim Crow or we're talking about other types of negative portrayals of the black male identity. And the goal of the Million Man March was to shift it. It was to show a different side. It was to show a different identity, a different view of the black male persona, which has never oftentimes been portrayed in a positive light. And so the goal of Mr. Louis Farrakhan was to organize 1 million men for a day of reconciliation and atonement. All of the participants of the Million Man March pledged and promised to refrain from violence against women and violence against children, whether that be physical abuse or verbal abuse. And the goal was also, and they were to also refrain from taking drugs or any type of physical violence or alcohol. This is also a time when black men are getting together to address the issue things such as police brutality, because black men were dying and getting murdered at a higher rate than their white male constituents. So addressing police brutality, and this is something that we've seen happen oftentimes throughout history, even with Martin Luther King and the March on Washington 20 years prior, even going up to today, we still address the issue of black male violence. And so with Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Million Man March, the goal was to address such things. Now, the Million Man March was not just, the goal was not just to get black men together to show solidarity, but it was also to show a form of unification within the black community. So those who weren't able to participate in the Million Man March, they were encouraged to stay home in what was called a day of absence. So they would refrain from going to school, they wouldn't go to any athletic facilities, they wouldn't go to work, they would just stay home, and it would be a day of reflection, and it would be a day of understanding one's position and understanding where they are in their life and in America. It was also a day when we were told to refrain from purchasing, so not so much of a boycott, but we would not be buying or going out to buy and purchase. So we wanted to show the value of the black dollar on a day when, and show on a day what happens when black people across the nation don't spend any money. There were several speakers at the Million Man March, including Benjamin Chavez, Jesse Jackson, Dick Gregory, Cornel West, but that's not to say that women didn't have their part in this as well. Maya Angelou also spoke, and also women, Dorothy Height, and women also played a very prominent role in the organization of this day. And so what we have to understand with the Million Man March is that it was a day for black men across the nation to come together and to show unity and to show that we do love and we do have respect for each other, because we were oftentimes either displayed or portrayed as in a negative way, or as savages, or as brutal, not only towards other races of people, but also towards ourselves. So this was a day to show that we can actually have love, not only for other races, but also for ourselves.
We're here with Terrell Summers. A little background on Terrell: he and I went to college together at Savannah College of Art and Design, and he is here today for our episode Color in Martial Arts. How are you, Terrell?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today? Thank you for having me today.
Oh, no problem. Doing well. Excited for this episode and to show everybody your amazing talent. So I'll start off with our first question. How did you get into martial arts? and what inspired you?
That's a great question. I think I get that question a lot, actually. I think this during my childhood, I was always drawn to watching Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, a lot of the old Kung Fu movies, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Claude Van Damme,
All
you know,
right.
just it was just something that I was drawn to. Um, and I've always just been inspired by the discipline of itself. My father also is a martial artist, and he didn't necessarily he didn't necessarily teach me, but he showed me a few things. And ever since then, just watching Dragon Ball Z and just watching things, I just was drawn to it, just inspired by it.
You definitely said a few cartoon show names that I remember too. I was a big Ninja Turtle fan.
Oh
So
yeah,
gotten into
Matt
some martial arts.
Splinter.
I think I had a brief stint in karate, taekwondo, but that was about it. So, what impact though has our martial arts made on you as a person, even as a father? There's so many different.
Well, martial arts is a very in a traditional sense, it's really rooted in a lot of fundamental principles that relate to your character. So honor, respect, integrity, understanding to protect the weak, and to kind of take that vow to really be useful to society. So those principles are something that have just really ushered me into my development as a man. And I've taken those same principles into fatherhood, really understanding the power of what it means to just be honorable, to be respectful, and to conduct yourself accordingly in a way that will deliver impact, to inspire, to motivate, to help people. So it has definitely been a cornerstone of my development as an individual.
Wow, I mean, just the way you said that was really powerful, and to be able to have, a hobby and an activity, something that's exercise related in motion that brings about all of those different characteristics in a person. I mean, I think that's really powerful. Even besides all the physical things that you are learning, all the talents and skills that you're building, that's a whole separate thing, which is part of why I was so intrigued to interview you about this and really find out more about that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's unfortunate because a lot of the martial arts of today is a lot of external. So you have like MMA, and I think, as I said, in the traditional sense, martial arts was really about internal things, like having a code of conduct. So, but yeah, it's something that I think that it's just a blessing to be able to express physically. And it's something that I've been doing for a very, very long time. So, but yeah, it's awesome.
I think that's really cool because I think a lot of times with the movies, we do get caught up in all the action of it. You know,
Yes.
it's nice to hear about those deeper philosophies that are part of, that education, not just about the moves you're doing, but who you are as a person and what you're growing into as you're learning these skills. I
Yes.
miss a lot of that. And, the movies were entertaining, but there's a lot
Yeah.
more. So then with, what you've learned about martial arts in the Black community, what role do you think martial arts could play that could benefit the Black community?
That's a great question. I think that martial arts can play a very powerful role in the Black community. I'll highlight just one of them. I think that martial arts is a great tool of self-actualization. So, as you see the issues boiling in America, our community, we're detached from our identity in a sense, in relation to other cultures. So I think what martial arts does is that it brings you to a place of self-actualization. And through that, using it as a mechanism, it takes you to a place of awareness of self. And it allows you to really dive deeper into who you are as a person, and how to heal, and how to really love yourself in a way, not just in a selfish way, because you can't heal other people if you're broken, right? So I think martial arts is just a medium in which can be used to allow a Black woman, a Black man to have that awareness of self, and have that awareness that there's a greater state in which you can live from. Like, your reality doesn't have to be the reality. Um, so it's a repositioning type of discipline. It's very spiritual. I think spirituality is something that is lacking in our community, and I think that a lot of things can be unpacked there as well. But I would just say self-actualization. That your identity doesn't come from reality itself. It comes from something that's beyond you, and that's something that's within yourself. And that's where you'll find your identity, and that's where you'll find your power.
I really appreciate that you made that connection to, the fact that we don't necessarily have those traditional cultural things, because we're kind of
Yes.
detached from that African culture. And I feel like a lot of what you are learning in martial arts stems from their culture.
Hmm.
So in a sense, we're borrowing kind of that philosophy that they're raising their children with. And
Yes.
I always wonder, is there, what are we missing from our own African culture that instilled those same things? We see Kwanzaa, they, created Kwanzaa here in America as a way to connect us. And so I
Yes.
think that as a community, we are seeking to connect, to have a actualization about who we are and an awareness. And so if there's ways like martial arts and other sports that kind of help us connect that, I mean, that's really powerful. And I think it's
Yeah.
something really needed.
Yeah, you said something really, really, really powerful there too. And you know, even though things are separated, right? The like separation is an illusion. It's really a construct that people have created to make them think that they are different or separated from a thing. And if you think about separation, it brings a lot of pain when you separate something from a whole. So even the art that I practice, even though its roots are from Indonesia, if you go back into history to look at the African martial arts, you'll see a lot of similarities. And it's because even though that these martial arts have been taken to other countries, it fundamentally is connected to all martial arts that's ever existed, dating back to Africa. And I think it's when I talk about self-actualization, one thing that you will learn is not everything is as separate as it may seem, but everything is actually one whole thing. Consciousness is one whole thing. Um, but yeah, that's an interesting segment that you've made into that. But yeah, that's great.
Well, it brings me to my next question. We're talking about how things aren't as separate as they seem, and there's multiple religions, but they all kind of have that same story, and they all kind of have that same God. So I kind of want to give you this question about how the martial arts world and those philosophies exist in your world of faith. How does that look on a day to day? Your martial arts and your own beliefs, your own religion. Like, how is that?
Yeah, so to look at the word martial art, I think that a martial can be seen as something that's of a militant, has the essence of militance, right, or authority is how I would say it. And then you have the art, which is the full genuine expression of a thing. So what does that mean together? So it is the divine expression of something that's authoritative. So I think that as a being of faith, being a Christian, being a follower of Jesus Christ, I see that there is a very consistent idea of dying to self, right? So we see through the narrative that there's something between pain and glory. There's a strong relationship between the two, so that through death you become, through suffering you become. So these are very like fundamental principles in martial arts, because when you decide to take on a discipline, the first thing that you undergo is something painful. something that requires you to suffer. And why is that? It's because we know that through that portal, or through that door of suffering, resides an opportunity for you to become something that you never thought you could be, something that you never imagined, right? And then a unique strength is drawn from that. So practicing what I practice particularly, which is pencak silat from Indonesia, it plugs right into my faith, because as believers, we must die. We must die so that the will of God can be done. Through faith itself requires you to operate in something that's very spiritual, because you can't see it in its reality, but you have to press into it as if it exists. This is also a major principle in fighting, because in fighting, I can't think about what I'm going to do. I have to use my faith to help me navigate that situation. And that situation will be uncomfortable. That situation may actually kill me, but I have to allow my faith and my liberation through that faith to allow me to flow to it and adapt. So that's kind of how it connects to my day-to-day, is that, whether it be, running the home in the sense of meeting the needs of my wife or my son, there's an element of dying to myself to make sure that their needs are met. And this is kind of echoed through my mental, my physical, and my spiritual. So happy to share that with you.
That was beautifully put too.
Yeah.
With this, I want to get into the things that you've done. What are your accomplishments in martial arts? Something that you're really proud of that you've done?
I would say my emotional intelligence. It's something that I feel that a lot of Black men in particularly lack. I think awareness and the power of stillness. A lot of what I'm listing is not something that you can put on a resume, but it is an accomplishment of self, in the sense of surrendering in a way that allows me to have an in-depth understanding of how to connect with people and how to truly interact with them in a state in which it heals them. Not just having a conversation of noise and just wordplay, but connecting with someone intimately, whether it be a mailman, whether it be a grocery store clerk, but just being present with people that I interact with is one of the greatest achievements that I've had, that supersedes any degree that I have, any money that I have accumulated in any bank. But just being present and learning how to be present is the greatest accomplishment any man, any woman can accomplish in their life, in my opinion. Not that I'm a master of it, but it's my posture of stillness and being present that I feel like I've accomplished and done pretty well at it.
Kudos to you. I think that is a fair school that probably should be on a resume. And
yeah, right.
like that, it's like, if you can get your young sons and nephews and cousins and your nieces and nephews and daughters in martial arts early and instill that in them from an early age.
Oh, yes.
When they're really young, what kind of impact can they have made on themselves and their family by the time, they've reached our age,
Yeah.
I mean,
you're talking about the origin, the origin of the king and the queen is what you're talking, yeah.
Right, and you've got your son. You're already passing it down right now.
Trying.
That right there that would make a huge impact on our community. And I don't even think it's necessarily just the Black community, especially in times like these. I feel like that kind of ability to be present and to really be grounded mentally for session, I think that is very needed.
Oh, absolutely.
And so hearing something like that come up for you in martial arts, someplace where I don't know that everyone would automatically think to find that kind of discipline, I think is important for our students to hear.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
When I say that, my question is kind of more about something else that you've done. You wrote a book, and I would like you to tell us about that.
Yes, I actually, hopefully it'll be released in February. I'm actually working on the cover art as we speak with an illustrator that also went to SCAD.
Hey,
Um,
yes.
hey, the book is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time,
Mhm.
and the book is called the Four Seasons of Power, and it's a series. It's going to be a series to talk about a lot of different things, and the book is something that I hope will help bridge the gap um, for people who are kind of disconnected with God or disconnected with themselves, and allow them to really enter that power of stillness, and that it looks different in every season of your life. So I kind of go into that, into details, and it's just a collection of thoughts and even poetry that I use to communicate my findings on my personal journey to power.
Oh, so the poems you wrote on your own, or some powerful poems that you found? You wrote the poems too?
Yes, yeah, I try to be versatile
Yeah.
in my ability to express, not just through my body, but my words too. And yeah, through each seasons of my life, I've wrote things that I've received from being still, from just hearing, God. I feel that God is always speaking to people, because His word is eternal. He's always speaking to us in different ways, which is why people love vacations, right? It's they love the language of peace that speaks to them when they go to beaches and mountains and hikes and valleys and all these different things. So through my power of stillness, I kind of receive these thoughts, and I've actually used them to encourage people. So I figure, why not just open the audience to the demographic of what God, well, not what I have to say, but what I've discovered that, that I believe God, you know, tells me in the ways in which, cut.
We may have to have you back to talk about that book when it comes out.
Yes, 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 yes. Um, but yeah, it's released to. It's supposed to be released in February 20. Cut that too. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be released in February, the month of February. I'm hoping to have the ebook, have the printed version
Mhm.
that is able to be accessible in any format. I'm hoping that it's going to be a blessing to both young adults, even children can read the book, to really grasp what it means to operate in the power of manifestation.
I mean, even as you're explaining this and you're talking about that sense of silence and peace and stillness, I mean, even now I'm feeling like very relaxed. Before the
Yeah.
interview, I'm like running around, trying to get the backdrop to stay, setting things up. And then even just talking to you, even just through the virtual, Zoom realm, I'm already like, yeah, like I'm feeling very relaxed. That's the emotion you're giving off. I can sense that, and I'm like very relaxed,
Oh, that's
very
good.
calm. Like I'm like, yeah,
Like
I feel
really chill, just chill.
right. I think that'd be something I'd be interested in reading because it kind of seems like, especially in quarantine, it hasn't really slowed things down in life, and we're just kind of a mile a minute in the house. We're working virtually. Our kids are in classes online, and the days are just flipping by as fast as they did when we were out and about in the world. And I think really taking the time to soak in that stillness, that peace, that calm, and to really feel grounded, I feel like that's something we all need right now, especially
Oh,
before we jump back into
absolutely,
the world, you know.
absolutely.
So I want to give you one more chance. If there's anything else you'd like to share with our viewers, a message or a tip about martial arts, anything you would like to share.
Sure. I encourage every ear that's listening and every eye that's watching, to really discover a discipline that will allow you to bring yourself to a place of stillness. I recommend martial arts because to me it just really touches different dimensions of just the physicality, the mental, but it is rare to find. Um, but I think that any practice that will bring you into a place of self-actualization, of awareness, and just your ability to focus for a long duration of time will be beneficial to your health. It'll be beneficial to your resiliency of heart. It'll be beneficial to your family and your children, and it'll be beneficial to your spiritual development. So I just wanted to put that out there. And if you're interested in what I practice, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm mostly on Instagram, and you can just, reach out to me. But thank you so much for this platform. I am blessed and honored to be a part of this movement that you have here. And I look forward to the release of these videos.
Yes, I'm very excited about it, and I'm so pleased to have you on. I really appreciate it. That it's been so much more than even I thought it was going to be. I've learned quite a bit, and thinking about trying to get my kids into martial arts.
Oh yes, yes. It's the only institution that's left that brings that brings a certain dimension of spirituality. There's churches, there's
Right.
a lot of different institutions, but what I love about martial arts is that you have to choose to go do it, right? Like we have to send our kids to school, or you know what I mean. Yeah, people choose to go to church, but you're actually to do a discipline of something that's going to be uncomfortable for you. That's a different type of journey when you choose to stick to it. So yeah, your sons, especially women, I don't know why it's so hard to get women into martial arts. It's actually, when a woman does it, it's magnificent. It's actually majestic even when a woman is able to tap into that, to any discipline where she's using all of who she is, not just one dimension of her, but she's using all that she is. It's a sight to see. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing this interview, and we'll be back to hear about your book.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.
See you later.
Today's reading taps into a more spiritual side of our reading so far. We're going to read a book called When God Made You, and this was written by Matthew Paul Turner with beautiful illustrations from David Catrow. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time. When God Made You. You, when God made you. God made you all shiny and new. An incredible you, a you all your own, a you unlike anyone else ever known. An exclusive design, one God refined. You're a perfectly crafted, one of a kind. 'Cause when God made you, somehow God knew that the world needed someone exactly like you. You. God thinks about you. God was thinking of you long before your debut. From the very beginning, amid history and time, you, little one, never left God's mind. God imagined your eyes, your head shape and size, and knew what you'd look like when you felt surprised. God pictured your nose and all 10 of your toes. The sound of your voice, God had it composed. The lines on your hands, your hair, every strand. God knew every detail like it was all planned. Out of billions of faces, from cultures, all races, people God made from all different places. God knew your name, your picture was framed. God's family without you would not be the same. 'Cause when God made you, this much is true. the world got to meet who God already knew. You, when God sees you, God delights in what is and sees only what's true. That you, yes, you, in all of your glory, bring color and rhythm and rhyme to God's story. So be you, fully you, a show-stopping review. Live your life in full color, every tint, every hue. Discover, explore, have faith but love more, and learn and relearn all that God made you for. Use your talents and passions, those gifts that God fashioned. Think up ideas and then put them to action. 'Cause God loves you creating, your true self displaying, when light on the inside through art is portraying. When you make believe, the stories conceived, the heroics, the magic, those tricks up your sleeve. When you dance alone, spinning like a cyclone, being whoever, whatever, in a world all your own. God smiles, and here's why. In the spark of your eye, a familiar reflection shines bright from inside. 'Cause when God made you, and the world oohed and awed, in heaven they called you an image of God. You, when God dreams about you, God dreams about all that in you will be true. That you, God's you, will be hopeful and kind, a giver who lives with all heart, soul, and mind. A dreamer who dreams in big and small themes, one who keeps dreaming and journeys upstream. A mover, a shaker, a lover of nature, a builder of bridges, you, the peacemaker. A you who views others as sisters and brothers and lives by 3 words, love one another. A confident you, strong and brave too. You being you is God's dream coming true. 'Cause when God made you, all of heaven was beaming. Over you, God was smiling and already dreaming. The end.
One more again. Mas não. Mas não. Mas não. Caviar. Espesso. Caviar. Espesso. Caviar. Espesso. A gente. Mas não vou sem te chamar.